Yep, it's TMZ Verified, the podcast. I'm Wild.
I'm Steph.
I'm Isaac.
I'm Jacob.
We have so much to get into today.
Woo.
Yesterday was the Met Gala.
Met Gala.
My favorite time of the year.
Stick on
Wait,
theme when you
guys,
go to-
I gotta break a story real quick. I will be right back.
Okay, and this is what happens. Welcome to TMZ Verified. Go, Jacob. Go, 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 go.
So let's get into the biggest name of the night. And that is Kim Kardashian wearing Marilyn Monroe's dress from 1962.
Crazy.
How
Crazy.
wild. Did you guys see it?
Yes,
Okay.
of course. It was amazing.
That dress has never been worn before. The story behind the dress is beyond crazy. Kim went to Orlando to the museum where it is being held.
Ripley's Believe It or Not,
Yeah,
right?
Ripley's, believe it or not.
So they've been preserving the dress?
They have. It's for show for people who go to that museum.
Okay.
So Marilyn wore it 60 years ago, then Kim wore it, no one else in between.
No one.
That's crazy.
It was never washed. It was never dry cleaned. Nothing. So Kim goes to Orlando months ago because she, had a feeling that this is kind of the vibe that she wanted, and Ripley's was not feeling it. She had tried it on. It did not fit the way that she wanted, the way Kim wanted it to fit. It did not fit the way Ripley's wanted it to fit on her. So it was kind of a no-go. Then back in March, she went back to Ripley's and she was like, let me give it one more shot. I've shed some weight. Let's try it on again. And they were here for it.
How much weight
I
did
was
she
about
lose?
to say, like,
So
yeah.
she, in the course of like the month, since she first tried it on to March, she lost 16 pounds.
Jesus. I'm like,
Teach me
can
how.
I?
Okay,
Yeah.
also
I'm like,
Marilyn
what
Monroe
is
ain't
it?
got the same body as Kim Kardashian. So what did she do
But
about
and
the,
they had to sew Marilyn Monroe's dress on to Kim. And that's
Okay, that was
why
my question.
Kim was
Right,
dropping hints throughout the past few weeks to a month, being like, I'm wearing something that can't be altered. I'm wearing something that, I have to, work for. And so everyone was she was dropping these hints, subtle hints along the way to, subtly say that she was wearing, and people put it all together. When we photographed her walking out of Ripley's in Orlando with P, everyone was like, this is kind of sus. What's at Ripley's?
What's
That
at
she could-
Ri-
yeah,
yeah,
like
right.
it was kind of clue after clue, the internet piecing every little piece together. So yeah, she lost the weight, and they were totally down for her wearing it. What I think is the coolest part is that they made a replica of the dress. So Kim didn't even wear the dress for longer than, let's say, 45 minutes from her hotel room to the carpet.
What?
And then
Okay.
right when she
Nice.
went in, like, I have goosebumps. I think
Yeah,
that's so
that is
sick.
That is
cool.
cool.
That's
Like
really fucking
she,
cool.
she, like, because it's such a
And
massive.
Jacob's back, people. Clap it
Jacob's
up for
back.
Jacob.
Are you ready for this?
So what I think is the coolest part is, they made a replica of the dress. And also I forgot to say that the dress was just not fitting over her ass. She couldn't,
look.
she lost the weight. She lost the weight, probably hips, stomach, the ass. The ass was the
I
issue.
also agree, even though I'm just coming into this conversation, I don't think the dress could fit over her ass.
Yeah.
So what did she had the little
right. So then
situation?
people saw that she had this jacket, and what that white little fur jacket was covering was just the zipper part by her bottom of her back leading to the crack where she couldn't get it.
like
zipped up.
Okay.
I love how
Oh.
Isaac said that, leading to the crack.
Yeah. I mean, we all know that, that one part
Right,
that
right,
the dress
right.
won't
Right.
fit in. So she had to kind of wear that white little, jacket moment to, leave it. It was like off the shoulder a bit.
Yeah, it was nice.
And so that was to cover that part that couldn't zipper all the way up.
Wow.
So she had taken those pictures. It was iconic. Ripley's, loved it on her. And then, like I said, when she got inside, she put on the replica that they had made for Kim of the exact same dress, and they put it right back away. And now it's actually going to be put in Hollywood at the Museum of... Forget the
Isaac, you got one job, man. It's the facts. You got to come with the
I
facts.
forget the name of the hotel.
Can I be a hater for a second?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of said this earlier. I am not like a Met Gala fan, and there are a couple sayings and phrases that I just want to delete from everyone's vocabulary after yesterday.
Okay, tell us.
One, and again, not trying to pick on Isaac too much, but
I feel like
will.
this is just like your bit.
Iconic. Why is everything iconic? If we call everything iconic, then the word loses meaning. It's like you can only use that like every so often.
I
Like,
feel like you're calling
this
me
is-
out specifically.
I'm
That is
calling-
a step
I'm going to
on
say
Brad.
that
calling
this
everyone
right here
out.
is iconic. Wearing a dress that hasn't been worn in 60 plus
that's pretty
years
awesome, dog.
from Marilyn Monroe
Yeah.
is freaking iconic.
Also, let's talk about the
No,
fact
when-
that they gave her a lock of hair
Wait,
Marilyn's
that's a little
hair.
I think that's
That's a
weird.
little
I know,
weird.
yeah,
Hold
we're-
on, hold on. I
Ripley's
know.
gave Kim.
Ripley gave Kim
They just got Marilyn's hair at the place. Like
From
what?
when
they
she-
gave Ripley's gave Kim
That's so
Kardashian
weird, though.
a lock of Marilyn's hair. I think that's the coolest part of this
What
entire
Kim gonna
story.
do with that?
Kim's like made a joke out of it. She's like, I'm gonna sleep with this to Pete, and Pete was like laughing.
Wait, sorry. I need to fight back against Isaac because with his eyes, he
You
looked
guys are
at me
literally
and
feuding.
said that he wanted to fight me. So
Okay.
the thing is, the Marilyn Monroe dress was iconic.
Yes.
Yes.
Objectively, if like a movie comes out, like I'm trying to think, Toy Story, iconic movie.
Yes.
Toy Story 2? No, that's the sequel. It's not iconic.
But I feel like
You
if
don't
all
think
the
any-
but
So you're-
look,
Nah,
if
that's
everyone
shit,
that was
that's
in the
a-
original Toy Story like 20 years later came back and did another Toy Story, I would be like iconic.
no, but no. Oh, whatever. We agree to
It's just like
disagree.
classically
Agree to
classic.
disagree. You're wrong.
Second
This
one.
is
Jacob
iconic.
likes
Okay,
a
go
classic.
ahead, Jacob.
One
Tell us
more,
your
just
second.
one more. Best life. Get over. I'm so tired of people saying they're living
Who
their
said that?
best
Who said that?
life. Dude,
You're just saying this
yesterday
is another
just-
say.
I'm on Twitter because I have to. I have to stay here.
PTSD
Jacob
from
is on one
yesterday.
today.
Dude,
Yes,
I
tell
was
us, Jacob.
covering.
Jacob's
I
like,
was
no one's
covering
living their best life. I'm like, oh,
Not
okay.
around here.
Yeah.
Well, no, again, it's just like, what does that mean? It's like, why is everyone? You can't always be living your best life.
No, you can't.
No,
Not
you
always,
can't.
no.
I'm sorry. Again, I said I'm going into this. I'm being a hater.
We'll
I
talk
am a
later,
hater.
Jacob.
Let's get into what we talked about with Sophia as we get into this interview that we did with her. Me and Jacob interviewed Sofia Franklyn, and we just wanted to give you a little bit of background on what exactly happened with Sophia in the last 2 years. We'll break it down for you, me and Jacob. Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this podcast, or the thing with this interview that we had with Sophia, is Sophia's actually done a lot of talking after this whole Call Her Daddy dispute.
So much.
And what was so interesting about our conversation, if I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, is that she was very open and vulnerable. It
Yes.
wasn't just talking about like dating advice, although we do get into that. She was really wearing her heart on her sleeve and talking about the emotional toll that this took on her. And again, we kind of dive into it. But for those who haven't been or who didn't follow the Call Her Daddy breakup, if you might recall, Call Her Daddy I think began in around 2019. It was
2018.
all right, sorry. You'll also see that Stephanie is like a super stan.
I'm sorry.
Call Her Daddy
Let me just break it
fan.
down super quick. I'm a
Alright.
super fan, so it's like easy for me to just like sum it up
Go
kind
ahead,
of.
go
So
ahead.
basically, Alex Cooper and Sophia had a podcast together called Call Her Daddy. This thing shot to the top of the charts almost instantly, overnight. They talk about sex tips. They talk about their personal lives, their own like sexual experiences on the podcast. They really give girls and guys a way into the modern dating world, I would say. Basically, they had a great podcast. Everything was going great until they wanted to negotiate their contract with Barstool Sports. Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports, technically owned Call Her Daddy. And so they wanted to renegotiate. Basically, there were some rumors going around that they weren't making enough money compared to, let's say, men or let's say more people in the industry that were at that magnitude of a podcast. They should be making more money. Well, Dave said, I'm going to sue you guys if you shop this around too much. So he offered them $500,000
Not enough.
and more perks, I would say, within this whole
Tons of
thing.
perks.
Right.
He let them. He said you can keep the Call Her Daddy IP.
Name, yeah.
Right.
Meaning it's like Call Her Daddy. It's your intellectual property. If you want to take it and run with it in the future, that's fine. But what's just important to us is that you stay at our company.
But here's the thing. The controversy
felt
happened.
lowballed.
Yes, they felt lowballed together. Alex Cooper and Sophia both felt that way. The problem here, the divide, is when Alex Cooper took this deal from Barstool and Sophia said, I'm not taking it. I deserve more, which she really stuck up for herself. We really get into that on the podcast. But the problem was Alex Cooper and Dave Portnoy and Barstool and the world sort of, you know, we can't put words into other people's mouths, but allegedly people were saying that Sofia Franklyn was making this decision based on the guy that she was with at the time. They call him Sloot Man, Suit Man, and Call Her Daddy.
Well, yeah. So Dave Portnoy, I guess, caught wind. Again, these are all allegations. A lot of this is from Dave Portnoy's side,
Right.
and that's what the narrative mostly was because Sofia Franklyn stayed quiet this whole time. But Dave Portnoy caught wind that apparently Sofia Franklyn was shopping the podcast that and the person that was making these business deals or attempting to make these business deals was Sofia Franklyn's boyfriend. And again, as Stephanie said, he's widely known as Suit Man. I think
Sloot
his
Man,
real
Suit
name
Man,
is
yeah.
what?
Peter Nelson.
Peter
yes.
Nelson. And so while this was all going on and this whole Call Her Daddy fiasco was going out, Dave Portnoy steps in on social media and like was destroying this guy. And
Yeah.
in addition to Sofia too.
Well, get this. When they made that disagreement and they're going, now Alex is taking the deal, Sophia's not. Clearly there's a divide. Dave Portnoy gets on the Call Her Daddy podcast and kind of breaks down his side of it. Then Alex talks. Now, the whole world is only hearing Alex and Dave Portnoy's side, not Sophia's. Sophia's really going through it. She lost a best friend overnight. She lost a career overnight. She was really going through it mentally. She describes that in our interview with her. But the issue was she took so long to respond that the world kind of made up their own assumptions. They were giving her death threats, bad hate, bullying in her Instagram comments on Twitter. I mean, you could Google her name and it was just all negative.
And I will just say that, I mean, objectively, there's stuff that she says in our interview that she's never revealed before. If you've been
Correct.
following this Call Her Daddy fiasco.
If you listen to every podcast like me, this podcast releases some info that even I was like, oh, I didn't know that about the entire situation.
Wow.
So basically, we really get into the nitty gritty in this interview. Not only we get to see a side of Sofia no one's ever seen before in terms of being really honest and giving us some info no one knows, but also telling the side of, yeah, Alex Cooper does have a $60 million deal with Spotify, but we also know that Sofia is doing great things right now and her side of the story also matters. So we really gave her that.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Great.
Sophia's going to break down all the drama,
Yep.
all of everything in our interview. Really excited for it. Sophia with an F.
Sophia with an F is her
Yeah.
podcast. She came out with some amazing merch recently. I'm so excited for it, and she was amazing. Me and Jacob really got into the nitty gritty with her. I'm excited for you guys to listen to it. Welcome back to TMZ Verified. I'm Steph,
I'm Jacob.
and this is Sofia Sorry,
I was about to intro myself.
Do it.
Yeah, do it.
Hi guys, Sofia Franklyn on here. I'm super fucking excited.
I was gonna say Sophia with an F, Franklin with a Y. Don't
Thank-
forget.
Thank
We're
you.
so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much.
So you don't live in LA.
hell no.
What do you mean hell no?
Absolutely fucking not.
Why?
Tell me Los Angeles hasn't changed a little bit.
It has.
It's changed a lot of it.
Okay.
We grew up here, so we know.
Yeah, I was at a Trader Joe's and there was someone who came in and was screaming bloody murder and was saying he was like going to kill everybody. And I was like, I live in New York and there's obviously like a lot of crime and stuff, but the crime in Los Angeles, like New York, you know what to expect. Los Angeles, it was just like a little bit jarring.
It's a curveball.
Definitely.
It
You're
was.
getting curveballs.
Definitely.
But you know what? I always talk shit on Los Angeles and I really need to stop.
But you just moved to New York.
I did.
So that's like a new beginning.
It
Did you get your
is.
apartment settled and like what's been going on with that?
I have one couch and one bed, and so I really like don't have a home. Like I walk in there, I'm like,
perfect.
it's like a storage unit.
Okay.
But we're getting there. It feels so fucking good to be back. Can I swear I've said the F
Yeah.
word
Oh, yeah.
27 times
Yeah,
already?
well, no worries. And
Okay.
also, like, something that people don't talk about is that it's impossible to get a place in New York right now.
Impossible.
Uh-huh.
Impossible.
So, okay, so you moved to New York,
Mhm.
and but you have to have spent like a good amount of time in LA, just being a podcaster, running a business. Like, I
Yeah.
would imagine you bounce between both places, or not?
All the time. Like probably every other month I'm here. I mean, I was here last week and I was back here now. So like I'm constantly here. Yeah.
Got it.
You were living in Utah though when all of this shit went down.
Yeah.
How was that?
I've been living in New York for a month and a half. Before that, I was living in my mother's basement in Utah for 2 years.
Iconic.
I really
She's
love
like-
how you're phrasing it that way. It was bizarre. I was 16 again. I didn't have a car. I had to ask my mom, like, can I borrow the car to like go places? It was, I don't know. That was also a very dark time
Right.
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah.
Living there.
Well, I mean, you were also going through a lot. I know you've talked a lot about mental health. You're a big mental health advocate, which I
Mhm.
appreciate. So, I mean, and also, I think it's natural, granted, you were in a peculiar situation, but whenever I would like come home for breaks from college, you revert back into like your childhood self.
100%. I'm like hiding alcohol. I'm like, my mom doesn't need to see these White Claws in the garbage. Like, why?
But I will say, like, when you went through all this shit, was it better to be with family for sure? Just because of 2020 and all that shit that's going on?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I needed to be there. Did I think I was going to end up living there for 2 years? No, but that's just kind of how shit went down.
Did you like reconnect with high school friends, or how does it
Um,
work when you obviously were in New York, you were on such a big stage, and you came back to kind of where it all started?
You know, yes, I did like start like rekindling like the friendships I had there, but really for the most part, I did revert back to kind of my high school self a little bit, but I was also, you said I talk about mental health. I was very like numb in a dark space. Like that time period, I honestly like don't really remember that well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that you were doing to help you get through it?
Like a day in the life of living in Utah post all this.
I mean, every single day was different. I think I went into, it was like a strategy that my brain just did where I just kind of like shut down and I didn't really let myself feel for a while. And then I think over time, I started to like I started going to therapy, like I started doing all of those things. And I mean, there were also some unhealthy things I did, like a lot of drinking, whatever. But now I'm in such a better place.
Right. And I feel like you've talked about nonstop what exactly happened, how it all went down. But like something like you lost a best friend in this whole entire situation. Was that like the hardest part of it, aside from like the cancellation? Was you lost a best friend, which is hard in itself.
Right. So are you asking me like if that was the hardest part of it all?
Yeah, or what was the hardest part out of all of the hard parts? 2020, it happening in 2020, losing a friend, losing that, stability of a career.
Right. So you would think losing the friend would have been the hardest part, but what I realized very early in that whole drama was that was never a friend to begin with.
Right.
So I didn't really feel that loss. It was more like I felt like I was duped and I was an idiot. And I was like, you had no idea like who this person was. You thought they were your really good friend, but I don't think that was ever real.
So I mean, you're in LA now. Alex Cooper lives here.
Well, I live in New York, but I'm here.
Well, sorry, yeah, you're just visiting, and you said that you come here pretty frequently. I mean, have you guys talked since the breakup, or is it just been radio silence?
Radio silent, which I would also like to say it's been like, how long has it been?
So tomorrow it's actually 2 years since your last text
For
to
those
her.
who are counting.
For those fans out there, I'm one of them.
The fact that you know
said
that?
the date in your first podcast back on Sofia with an F. You think I'm kidding? It's been 2 years.
That is fucking hilarious that you know that. That is wild. That was the last text I sent.
Yeah.
Should I text her right now?
Yeah,
for
and be
fun?
like, hey, I was wondering if you could come to TMZ.
I mean,
Be like, it's our 2-year anniversary.
Love
Miss
you.
well, you're also in LA. I'm sure you guys kind of roam with similar people. I mean, do you ever think, we might bump into each other and what that interaction would be like?
I don't think about it. I don't think about her. I don't follow up on anything that she's doing or whatever's happening. I mean, if we bump into each other, we bump into each other.
Do you ever hate watch?
Never.
Okay, what about when you meet someone new? Do you go, okay, I wonder whose side they took in the beginning?
I actually don't ever think that way.
Okay, that's good.
But I mean, I've had some interactions where people will be like, come up to me and be like, are you Sofia Franklyn? I just want you to know, like, I didn't take sides. Like, I support both of you guys, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dope. Like, okay, cool.
You're like, listen, if you didn't take my side right away, don't talk to me.
Who's asking for that? Like,
no,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm like, I didn't ask. But also, there have been people who were very public and took her side or Barstool's side. And there was a moment in time where I was like, fuck them. I'm not going to collab with them. I'm not going to do anything. And then I've kind of had to be real about the situation and be like, people read things in the news and believe it, and I kind of have to just let that go. Do I have a little tiny part in the back of my head where I'm like, fuck off? Like,
yeah,
you were dumb. You were a sheep and you were dumb to believe everything you read. Yes, but no, for the most part, it doesn't bother me.
Well, during that whole time, like Alex Cooper was super outspoken. So I think people were just so curious to know about what was going on. And she was the only person talking. And I was always thinking like, damn, Sofia must have something up her sleeve. Like, I don't know if it's a lawsuit, who knows? but it sounds like it might have just been mental health struggles, which makes sense.
Yeah. A lot of people have asked me why I just went radio silent. And sometimes looking back, I think you should have just went out there and talked your shit and told your story and told the truth. But I think it was a mixture of my mind was not okay. And I also think that I knew better than to try to say my piece when she had the podcast. She had access to all the listeners. She had access to everyone that listens to Barstool, follows Barstool, and had Dave Portnoy. And it was like whatever I said, it was just going to get trampled. And I just thought, you know what? When I feel ready to say my piece, I'm going to say my piece in a big fucking way. And I'm going to take my time to heal and figure out, strategize.
Yeah.
For those who said this whole thing happened because of the boyfriend that you had at the time, do you think that if that would have happened regardless, if you didn't have the boyfriend or not, the ending of the friendship, ending of the podcast?
I think 100% it was a ticking time bomb.
It would have happened regardless. Okay.
Just knowing her past, like friendships, like went through 6 best friends, none of them were left. MILF Hunter, I'm sure if you followed the show, like her completely fucking him over in front of me. So I think eventually it would have happened. And I think when people say, oh my God, Sofia was just some puppet and her boyfriend was pulling the strings and she was doing whatever he says, for people who know me, no dude is telling me what the fuck to do. No man is telling me like, oh my God, you need to go do this, you need to go do this. If anything, it's the fucking opposite. And I'm the one doing that. I think it was just a matter of she, at the end of the day, was like, you know what? I want to do this. Sofia wants to do this. And I'm willing to completely fuck her over and take it for myself.
If you could hit the rewind button, would you change anything? Or are you just exactly happy how it all turned out in terms of where you are now?
The only thing I would change, and this is something I don't think I've ever said before, I think that we were both so hot-headed and so stubborn. I do wish we would have had more of a communication, but at the same time, I tried, right? I reached out and she wasn't having it. I do wish maybe we could have been a little bit more open and like talking to each other. But with that said, I actually don't think that would have made the outcome any different. I think she knew what she wanted and she was willing to, stomp on me.
So say like, I'm just going to throw a hypothetical because I heard you say on another podcast, like the chances of us collaborating again are 0. But say I'm Alex Cooper and I step up and I'm like, yo, it's been a minute. I want to collab. We had something special. What can I do to make things right?
I don't like to walk around with hate in my heart, and I don't have that towards her. I would do a collaboration, but it wouldn't be a kumbaya, let's hold hands and like move forward. It would be like, yeah, I mean, we can talk, but like, let's be real with each other,
For sure.
But I don't have hate there. Like I've moved on. Like I'm doing my life, she's doing hers, and that's what it is.
Yeah, and by the way, it's like you're killing it. I always see Sofia with an F on top 200 of podcasts. You open your own company. I mean, it's different than what you guys had before. And also, again, I think I could speak for Steph. Call Her Daddy, when you guys were doing it together, it was gospel for so many people.
It was.
I remember literally, like, I was at school, I was in college, and I would be talking to dudes, and they'd be like, I know how to treat a woman right in the bedroom. And I was like, for sure, man, like, dope. And he was like, have you heard of Call Her Daddy? And I'd be like,
3000.
no, what's that? And then he's like, oh, dude, they teach you how to do everything. And then I put on, I'm like, all right, I got to check this out. And then I turn on an episode. It's like, do you want to be a bad bitch? And I'm like, oh, what the fuck?
You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm like, wait,
happening?
whoa, I don't know if I want to be a bad bitch.
No, I think that was part of like the success. It was like we're teaching girls how to give the sloppiest, nastiest blowjob, but there's so many pointers in there for dudes on like how to, land a fucking hot ass bitch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I do that on my podcast now, Sofia with an F, but I think, that was a huge reason it was so successful. It was for men and women.
I think the new one's successful because you do a mixture of, the Gluck Gluck 3000 tips, tips on fingering. But then the next episode's like, well, my mental health this week's not that great. That was not the case on Call Her Daddy.
No.
I prefer this, truly.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a mixable. Not all the time am I wondering how to give the best blowjob.
Right.
Sometimes I am going through a mental health day. You know what I mean? Like, I want a little bit of both.
That's so refreshing to hear, right? It's every episode shouldn't be like, this is how you want to choke on a dick. It's like, this is how you want to choke on a dick.
That's not real life.
No,
this
it's
one's
not.
more real.
Yes.
Not that the other one was fake, but
I mean, I'll tell you right now, Sophia Enough is 100 times more real.
There we go.
Boom. I know I sound like such a nerd. I don't know when I answered this question, but I asked this we had Holly Scarfoni from Too Out to Handle. She was on a couple episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking, like, whenever you're at like a family reunion or you meet your boyfriend's parents, and obviously you are so successful, you have your own media company, you have your own podcast, like you're doing big things. But when they're like, so, like, what do you do? How do you answer that question?
Honestly, I would be lying if I said like it hasn't been a little bit nerve-wracking. 100%. I mean, I just posted something where I was on a stripper pole in front of Rudy Giuliani and I'm like half naked
Love it.
with stripper heels. I really just try to say I own a media company and I do have a podcast and I just talk about mental health and it's a little bit raunchy. Like sometimes I'll talk about sex and relationships and I phrase it that way. I know for sure the parents probably go and listen to an episode and are like, what is the hell is my son fucking dating? But it's the name of the game.
Have your parents, like, especially when Caller Daddy was coming out, they're like, so Sophia, what is the Gluck Gluck 3000?
No.
Or
My mom, I remember, called me frantically and said, please block every single human being that we know that lives in Utah and anyone that like knows me. And she hated it. And you know what's really funny? I mean, I've been doing this for 3 years now about. To this day, I'll drop an episode and she'll call me and say, did you have to say the F word that much? You really didn't need to go into that much detail. I'm like, damn, you're really not going to let this go.
well, she's being a good mom. She's looking out.
I know, but it's like, Mom, it's been like 3-something years. Like, I don't think it's changing.
But they were supportive.
Yes, she was. I mean, she had a hard time, but at the end of the day, she was like, if you're happy doing that, like, I support it.
When this all went down, was there a minute that she was like, was there a minute where your mom was like, or you were like, maybe I should go back to the finance thing?
Hell no. Absolutely not. I mean, once you leave that world and you enter this one, there's no going back.
But after the podcast Caller Daddy ended, did you know you wanted to start another podcast immediately? You're like, I got to get back out there.
100%. And I mean, I wanted to die every single day. Like I worked in finance, And so I knew it was like, I need to be in entertainment in some way, shape or form.
Is it the worst when, like, I don't know, at least from my perspective, when I'm talking to anyone and they're like, yo, so, like, are you trading crypto right now? Like, I want to blow my brains
Literally,
out.
I don't get it.
Like, I respect you being like, I would never go back to finance. Like, finance was never something that I would be, like, wanting to go in. I get cash is king. But, like, when you guys go on dates and a guy just starts riffing about, like, his portfolio, do you want to blow your brains out?
1,000%. And you know what? This is what I always say. Money talks, wealth whispers.
Down.
100%.
Take that
There we
with
go.
you.
100%.
And then, but the crypto is a whole different fucking level now. Like, if you come up to me and you're talking about like Dogecoin, the metaverse, I'm like, please, like, leave me the fuck alone.
Sophia, like, we could turn your Instagram into, like, NFTs. We could sell them as NFTs.
Do I have a Coinbase account? Yes, but it's, I don't know. Crypto is just like, if I know a guy is super involved in that, I know there's like a huge conference in the Bahamas right now, instant, my vagina shrivels up and it's dry as fuck, and I'm not into it.
Me too.
So who are you dating right now? Can you spill?
That's a really good question. I'm not going to answer that directly because it's a little bit up in the air. It's a little bit confusing right now, and that's me being completely genuine. I haven't even said on my podcast or told my listeners like what that situation is. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
Okay.
Well, so, I know during the fallout of Caller Daddy, like, everyone was pointing to Suit Man. Like, whatever. I actually don't even, it was Peter.
Oh,
I think
it's
was
Peter Nelson,
Peter
Suit
Nelson,
Man.
there you go.
Yep.
Sloot Man.
Yeah.
Sloot
Excuse
Man.
me.
So
Sloot Man.
I know you've said before that you guys are on decent terms, but do you talk ever? What's your relationship like now?
I will say this. People were really curious as to, did they break up? Did they stay together? We stayed together.
You stayed together.
Yeah. And it was for a really long time. And I mean, technically, we might still be together. It might be a little bit up in the air. I don't want to say too much, but for those 2 years, he was right by my side.
Did this Caller Daddy experience bring you guys 50 times closer?
It, in a way, and this is where I just like, I'm so genuine and authentic and honest. I think we were both having some struggles. I mean, I know I can't speak for him. And I think at first we were just both so numb. Like I couldn't be close to anyone. Like
Right.
I actually started not trusting like my best friends.
Right. Like, is
it
it hard to make friends now every time you
Right.
meet someone new?
A little bit. Like I'm a little bit scared. Like my trust issues were already
Yeah,
bad.
no
Like
kidding.
every girl,
Literally.
there's no girl that doesn't have fucking trust issues because boys are a little bit pieces of shit sometimes. But I guess girls can be too. But it was like tenfold. Did it bring us closer? I think ultimately, yeah. But also no, it didn't bring us closer because I knew the whole time what the intentions were and they were pure and they were good and it wasn't him trying to get fucking money. Like
Right.
I'm gonna let some guy make money off my shit? Like no, are you kidding me? I have guys pay for my shit.
Right. Other than saying to people, fuck off, when they say, oh, she, ruined this whole podcast and friendship for a guy. What do you have to say once and for all for those people? Because that's the other side of this whole
Yeah.
thing.
You have to be out of your fucking minds to think that I would blow something up over a guy. I have daddy issues. I have trust issues. What I'm actually working on in therapy is how my therapist verbatim said, Sophia, you treat boys like toys. And it's because of like your daddy issues and like everything else. And to think that I would let a boyfriend like, have that much of an influence on me, my career, my friendships is just like bizarre.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah.
Because I think the problem was she was doing all the talking and you didn't talk at all.
Right.
And I think that disconnect from the fans, they were just curious.
Yes.
As even me as a fan myself, I was just wondering, like waiting.
Right.
And then when you came out with the Instagram story, I
Yes.
was a little bit confused. But then when you came out with the first podcast episode, I think everyone collectively was like, all right,
Yeah.
this is her side. And it's
Yeah.
they are two completely different sides.
Mhm.
So it did make a divide
It
for
did
sure.
it was really wild to see because for a moment in time it was everyone fucking hates me. And then when I finally spoke my truth, then it was like this complete flip where people were like, now we hate her. Now it's like Sophia. And it's, there was a huge divide that happened for sure.
So you and Peter were doing long distance while you were in Utah?
He was living with me at my mom's.
Oh, I love that.
It was really sweet. It was really cute. We got very, very close. But I mean, also the both of us were like traveling a shit ton, New York, LA, like back and forth. But yeah,
So you and Sloop Man lived together in Utah,
we did.
and then you're dropping this new podcast. Was he completely supportive of you dropping a new
Oh,
podcast
yeah.
or scared?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. He wasn't scared at all. He was like, you do you. And he's supported me
amazing.
all the way.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And what a unique experience going through
So
like the
crazy.
world. Well, even though it's like not the world crashing down, we just like to.
No, it was
the
sensationalize
world
and blow
crashing
this
down.
stuff
No.
up.
I mean, where my head was at, I was like, the world is crumbling.
Of course. And I
Mhm.
mean, rightfully so. It's like you just wake up one day and you see a ton of different media outlets talking about you, people on Twitter jumping to conclusions.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were getting tons of people tweeting at you, harassing you.
I mean, I wouldn't look. That's a lie. Every once in a while, I would like maybe look and it was just like negative. And there would be like one positive thing that's like, this story isn't adding up and I don't trust like what I'm hearing. And like I want you to speak and I'm like on your team. And I think that's crazy that even regardless of what happened, like Call Her Daddy was your show. You were 50% of that shit. I think I was a little bit more. I think it was my personality and my jokes and my stories. But it's hard to explain to people how that feels to really feel like the entire world fucking hates you.
Well, a day in the life of cancellation, I'm sure you were just going through it mentally, an absolute breakdown.
Oh.
But when did this podcast idea come out where you're like, I got to come up with, Sophia with an F?
To be honest, and this is where I'm really proud of myself, the second it was confirmed that I was not going to be able to continue on the old show, I was like, there's a new show coming.
There she is.
Just right off the bat. Does that mean I was like mentally okay? No, but I just numbed myself
You
and I
knew.
was like, let's go. let's do this as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And now you've built it into a whole company, a whole brand.
Yes.
Why is that? It's Sloot Media.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it necessary?
What do you mean? Like,
There's like anyone can make a podcast. Like, there's
Right,
over
right, right.
2 million podcasts, and it's like, why should people listen to
Mm-hmm.
yours? Why does Sloot Media? Why should you guys have? Why should people come to you?
right. And the podcast, Sophia the F. I mean, I think it's because I am like the most self-deprecating person, and I never really hype myself up, and I'm working on that, but I do have this ability to be so fucking authentic and real and honest and vulnerable and talk about things that people don't want to talk about and talk about them in a way where I'm like, no bullshit. This is really how I feel. This is really what's going on. And a lot of people, they love that and they can relate to it. And I think it makes them feel better about their shit. It's like, it's when you don't talk about things that you kind of like store it in the back of your head and you feel shame for whatever reason. And I'm like, fuck that. Let's talk about it.
How do you think you're able to be so vulnerable and just really wear your emotions on your sleeve? I think you're totally right. You nailed on the head. That's totally why people are attracted to you.
Mm-hmm.
But does that just come to you naturally? Is it something that you think you learned over time?
That is such a good fucking question. I'm gonna put it in my notes out to ask my therapist. I'm not kidding. Why and the thing is, I've always been like that since I was really little. I don't know what it is. I think that I don't know. I've always been an open book. I mean, I did have somewhat of like a traumatic childhood to some degree, and I think maybe like my mom always taught me. My mom had me in therapy, by the way, since I was like in diapers. Maybe that's why I feel like really comfortable just being like very honest about my shit. But I think that going through something growing up, and I mean, everyone's had like somewhat of a fucked up childhood in one way, shape, or form. I think it kind of forced myself to talk about hard things. And my mom taught me to be very open with her about stuff. And I kind of, even though I do care what people think, because everyone does, at the same time, like I don't really care like if they judge me on something I say.
Well, you've gotten the brunt of it. You've gotten the brunt of it.
Well, yeah. Especially now, I don't give a flying fuck,
Yeah.
Truly.
Do you think it's, I mean, this is something that we kind of talk about on this podcast. It's like you're mingling with a lot of people who are like influencers and whatever, other celebrities. What is it like being a part of that world?
It's like the world. I mean, it depends, right? Like there is a lot of surface level, fake, superficial shit that I definitely don't vibe with. I'm not saying all influencers are like that because that's not true. But I mean, the industry, you're going to find a lot more of those types of people in there. I don't vibe with that. I can tell immediately when I meet someone if they're just like fake bullshitting, But on the flip side, being able to just talk my shit for a living has been like the biggest blessing in my entire life. And so, I mean, working in this industry, it's been really interesting. It's been a relief in some ways than like working the 9 to 5 and like finance and bullshit. But it's also, it's stressful too, right? It's like now everything I do, it's not just I have to worry about it. It's going to affect my mom. It's going to affect my family. It's going to be public for literally everyone to have like their opinion on it. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
2 years later, now would you say you're glad it happened because of where you are today?
Yes.
Okay.
And I say that right now. Do I feel like 100% yes? I just know, but I know, ultimately I'm going to say this was meant to happen, and it was the best thing that could have happened in my life.
Wow.
I know that deep down.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a cliche question?
Yes.
Where is Sophia in 5 years?
Woo!
Because you have a lot of goals. I mean, you're building this company.
Yeah.
You have a lot of things going. What are you prioritizing right now?
Yeah. This is, I feel like I'm like in the job interview and they're like, what's your 5-year plan?
This is a super job interview
I'm
question.
like,
and I have a pen in my hand and I'm looking, I have my notes. But I'm genuinely
Yeah.
curious
Is
because you have a
TMZ
lot.
hiring?
Hell yeah.
For sure.
Come
Please
aboard.
sit next to me, by the way.
No, then let me rephrase it so you don't feel like you're back at JP Morgan. No, the point is you. I've just heard you talk on a bunch of podcasts, and you have a lot of goals. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's crazy when you said that it was 3 years ago. I feel like
I
you were
know.
a vet. Like you've been
Yeah.
in this shit for years and years.
And really hasn't been that long if you really think about it.
Well, if you go through all that shit, though, that tallies up the time, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I mean, just what are some of the things that you're looking to get done?
Right. There are so many things. I mean, I have like a never ending list of things. I think it's really, I want to hone in on my brand and who I am and just really like capitalizing on that and just giving people something that is so authentic and so real. And I don't know if that will be a podcast forever. I don't know if it will be in a different format, but I think I'm just still a work in progress. 5 years from now, maybe I'll be pregnant and be like a sugar baby. I have no fucking clue. A stay-at-home mom, but I do have big plans.
So are you looking to build out the brand? Are you looking for new talent, people who you kind of see eye to eye with?
I can't speak on that too much, but short answer is yes. Mm-hmm.
Got you.
Yes, there are some things in the works, and I know it's so annoying when people say that shit, but it is what it is. It is what it is.
No, you got to keep your cards close to your
Yes,
chest. I
yes.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
You have a media company now, Sloot
Mhm.
Media.
Yes.
Tell us where Sloot came from,
So
the name.
Slew is a version of the word slut. And really, I think it came from my mom being foreign as fuck and not being able and just saying words wrong or like phrases wrong. And we'd be like saying someone or something as a slut, which is an empowering thing to say, by the way. And she would say slew. And that's really where it came from. Also, I grew up in Utah, and like you're so scared to say it's not oh my god, it's oh my gosh.
Right.
And it's not slut, maybe just say slew. And so I was like, fuck it, Slew Media. I mean, my brand is heavily it has a lot to do with sex and women being sleuths, and I wanted to make that like an empowering thing.
Wait, I did not know that salute was the polite way of saying slut. It's
Oh,
like,
100%.
really? I thought that was
Yes.
just like
No.
No.
dudes being dudes, like, oh, salute. Like, no, not at all.
No, it's literally like the nice, girly way of saying slut.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Learn
you
something
want to
new
be
every
called
day.
a sleut. Like, that's the goal. It's
That
like,
is the
I'm
goal.
a sleut.
Uh-huh.
Learning a lot right
Yes, Slew Media. I love when I like have these like serious business conversations, or I go to the bank and they're like, your account is Slew Media. I'm like, that's the one.
now. Can I ask you a TMZ question?
Go for it.
Celeb crush.
Oof. Oh my God. I'm like literally thinking about all the men.
You're blushing.
I'm like
You're
getting my hair. I have a really big thing for Javier Bardem.
Wow.
Whoa.
He's older.
That is an acquired taste.
I understand he's older.
Sophia,
It's
I did not
something.
expect you to say that. I'm like in shock. Not that he's not, but I did not expect that.
Incredibly talented guy.
Right, that's not what I'm
Right.
saying. But you wouldn't think Sophia with an F's dream crush, him.
I know. I think that shows like I have taste. And
Absolutely.
100%.
right. And I care about he's like an actual good actor. And I think he would be really something in bed. Like he
Okay.
gives those vibes. Like I don't even
Okay.
fucking know.
What type of
Okay.
vibes? Like when you see him act, you're like how do you see someone in a movie and you're like, oh, he'd kill
I
it in
mean,
the
what?
bedroom?
No Country for Old Men, and he's like he's literally like a serial killer, like has no feelings, like just a monster. I'm like, that shit would rock my vagina 100%.
See, this is the Sophia that I was expecting.
Yeah.
Give some tips on your Sophia with an F
Mhm.
expertise on how to date in 2022
Ooh, how to date in 2022
compared to
How
Caller
many
Daddy.
times have you gotten
Sophia
that?
with
Like,
an
do
F.
people just come to you all the time? They're like, how do
Not
I
with
date?
the Sophia
How do
with
I-"
an F angle.
Okay.
This is like all her.
Yeah.
What was your dating advice with Sophia?
my
with an
my
F?
genuine advice is I think that women need to start dating from a place of I am 100% fine being alone And this could just be like an addition to like my life that I love already.
100%.
So many women go into dating thinking like,
he completes me.
he's gonna complete me, or like there's not like that many good guys that like are available. Like I need to grab onto one. It's like, don't start dating until you are okay being by yourself and just being you.
So you're saying that women or men too, they find partners to fill the void inside them, and really what you should be doing is filling that void through yourself.
Yes.
Whether it be working out, doing well at your job.
100%. And also I think that people will go into dating and they want someone to complete them, right? And then that just ends up fucking you in the end, because that other person can feel that energy and that vibe of your kind of like desperation, what you're looking for, and it's a turnoff. So if you go in there and you genuinely feel like, hey, I don't need you, but like maybe we could have fun and see where this goes, that's getting a guy's dick hard.
Right,
That's
because then
getting
he'll
a
be like,
girl
oh,
wet.
now I really can't fuck it up because she doesn't care if like, I'm around. What about, give me 5 red flags. I'm single, I'm in LA, like give it to me.
5 red flags.
Crypto.
Him splitting the bill on the first date.
Stop.
Crypto.
Who splits the bill on the
I
first
could
date?
not.
That's so bad.
I'm so glad that's
come
never
on.
happened, but that's absolutely
No one
not.
does that.
They do.
Dudes do that shit all the time.
Hey, let's go out. Let's split the
No,
bill.
I would walk out. Okay, that's
lame.
2. 3 more. I think if he cancels or shows up really, really fucking late, give him one more chance. But that's already that's kind of like
He's already in deep water.
yes. If he is talking nonstop about his exes
Oh my
or
God.
like his
That's just triggering.
ex-girlfriend.
I just went into a time warp. I just
does
like
that?
Oh, guys,
Literally
do that
everyone.
shit.
You have to be so tone deaf
Oh, yeah.
to go on a date with someone and
Jacob,
be like,
They do it all the time.
almost to the point where I'm like, I would just like one that doesn't even mention her. Like literally, I don't even want. I want you to tell me you've never kissed a girl at this point.
Slim pickings.
So people are just using a date as a free therapy session.
Yeah, they're like-
Exactly. A lot of men do that. And then I would say the last one is if they are talking about how much money they make, how big their apartment is, they have like a Picasso in their apartment, they drive a Lambo, like if they're trying to flex and it's so obvious, bye.
Damn, well, I mean, when you said Picasso in the apartment, I'm like, what type of dudes is Sophia dating?
I did go on a date with this like hedge fund guy, and he was like talking nonstop about like, I got a Picasso and I did and I'm like, I mean, I'll go and I'll like look at it, but
Okay, wait. I need to get into the caller daddy headspace for a sec. I'm sitting next to Sofia Franklyn. I need to ask this. When it comes to your worst date story ever that you've never told on Caller Daddy, worst date, you think back and you're like, what was the worst date I went on? Can you please give us a story?
This is gonna sound a little bit surface level, and I'm very high maintenance, and I really don't care. This guy was like, I have tickets to a Knicks game. You need to be super dressed up because we're sitting courtside.
He didn't say that.
Yeah, he did, which I loved.
Okay, so you do like
that's
you
the
like a
superficial
heads up.
part. But he wasn't bragging. He just said, I have courtside tickets, so like,
Look
you know,
hot.
look cute.
Okay.
And I showed up and it was not courtside. It was 6 rows back, which is fine. Just don't sell me on the it's courtside. I
Right.
would have
Yeah.
worn fucking sneakers to this shit, you know?
Okay.
And then I had a huge zit and I was so embarrassed about it. And I asked him to take a picture of me and eating a hot dog or like drinking something or something. I was like, oh, just take a pic of me. And he was like, wait, we need to like cover up the zit, and
He
was
did
like
not.
telling
Sophia.
Yes. He was like, hold the drink in front of it. Like, we got to do this, like, blah, blah. And I'm like, just take the picture, dude. I know I have a zit.
That's so
This is
bad.
so bad.
This stuff that you guys are describing, I don't think you're making it up, but I would love to meet these dudes because it's not like I'm so great, but it's like there's just a level of normalcy. And like these are like basic things. Like you don't like walk into a restaurant naked either. Because,
No, the
like,
best
that's
part's
not
when like they
polite.
give you the build up and you get on the date and then they're like completely the opposite. They like gave you a narrative that they just like, don't even
Right.
stick to. That's my favorite. And they're
Right.
like, I'm this guy and like I'm really sweet. I'm like, I'm usually the most sensitive guy like out of my friend group. And then you get there and he's like, so I just like fucked this girl last week.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
they
God.
And
show
I'm like,
up
I
complete-
want a date with you.
They
What?
show. I
Learning a
hate
lot.
when they show up completely different people. But you're acting shocked right now. We know
We
it's
know.
80% of dudes are like, what, you're like a movie character and you're disgusting. I don't want to date you.
Calling out someone's zit is so rude.
And it
I would
wasn't
cry
like
if
that
someone
bad.
called out a zit.
It wasn't even like that bad. You know what I mean? It's like, just let me have a zit. Like,
Wait,
it'll be
What
gone.
would you be open to talking about what was the nicest thing that Sloop Man did for you in your relationship this far?
Oh my God. I mean,
Because everyone thinks he's like the worst guy on planet Earth.
he's not. When you ask me the nicest thing he's ever done for me, it's an ongoing list that like I can't even point out one thing. He's been the nicest, most generous, amazing dude that I've ever dated. Hands down, no
I
question.
love that. Because after everything, I think that's what everyone wants to know.
Yeah.
Is he a good guy to you?
He's just a good guy in general, and anyone that actually knows him knows that.
So do you have anything you want to share with the audience, like what you have coming out?
Well, if you can see my trucker hat, it says I have options. It's this new merch line I just dropped, and it's
I need
so
one.
I'm gonna get you shit, but it's like it's the cutest thing I've dropped, but like the meaning behind it is basically I dropped a TikTok that went viral. And when I say viral, the Daily Mail picked it up, the New York Post picked it up, like it like took over. And
Talk about the TikTok.
the TikTok was me giving a tip on what to do on a first date, and it was to have like the bartender send you an anonymous shot so that this guy is sitting there being like, oh, there's another dude in here that's like sending her a shot. Like guys,
Brilliant.
like dudes want this girl. And it just shows like you have fucking options. And the Daily Mail kind of tried to shit on it, and they were just kind of like, is this toxic behavior or is this okay? And I found it hilarious, and it's like, let everyone know you have options. I have options.
That's called 5D chess.
Yeah, Daily Mail is called Standards. How about that?
Exactly.
And also, if I'm getting a little bit more like philosophical with it, I think it plays into your whole approach to dating.
And Sophia with
exactly.
an F.
It's
as a whole.
exactly. You should always feel and really believe and let them know you have options.
What drink do you send yourself when it comes to
Ooh,
sending yourself a
I
drink on
mean,
your first
sweetheart, we're doing Casamigos
Mm.
Okay.
tequila shot.
date? Amazing.
But boom,
Yes.
I gotta
Yeah.
say, I've learned a lot. I've learned top to bottom.
I have one last
This
question.
has been an educational episode.
I have one last
Go
question.
for it.
Caller Daddy fans
Mhm.
didn't ever get to speak to you again after the falling out
Uh-huh.
with your ex co-host.
Right.
She had full,
Right.
control over that.
Mm-hmm.
If you could talk to the Caller Daddy fans, because unless they went to your podcast, you never got to speak to them again.
Right.
What would you say to the Caller Daddy fans that you didn't get
Mhm.
to say goodbye to, get to say your piece? What would you say?
I would say I mean, I had a real connection with them when I was doing Call Her Daddy. I think that they should absolutely come over to Sophia with an F and don't fucking believe everything that you read in the news. We all know like a lot of that shit is just fake,
Hell yeah.
you know?
I love it.
Well,
Not TMZ though. This shit's real reporting.
for real.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Sophia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This
you
was
guys.
amazing.
Thank you.
So that was our interview with Sofia Franklyn. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check us out on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your playlists, and we'll see you next time.
Wherever you get your podcasts,
Oh,
right?
yep. We'll see you next time. Bye.